Image source, Getty Images. Manchester City had taken legal action against the Premier League's APT rules. Published 7 October 2024. The verdict has been announced in Manchester City's legal case against the Premier League over the league's rules on commercial deals involving clubs' owners. City, who are owned by the Abu Dhabi-backed City Football Group, had some complaints upheld, with two aspects of the associated party transaction, APT, rules deemed unlawful by a tribunal. But the Premier League says the tribunal rejected the majority of Manchester City's challenges and endorsed the overall objectives, framework and decision-making of the APT system. APTs are aimed at the value of sponsorship deals with companies linked to clubs' owners. This case is not directly related to the Premier League Disciplinary Commission, which will hear 115 charges against City for allegedly breaching its financial regulations, some of which date back to 2009. The tribunal, in a 175-page document, ruled that shareholder loans should not be excluded from the scope of APT rules and that some amendments made in February by the Premier League should not be retained. In this arbitration process, Chelsea, Newcastle and Everton acted as witnesses for City. Both sides can claim victory, Man City legal case explained, published 18 hours ago. Both sides can claim victory, Man City legal case explained. Witnesses for the Premier League included Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, Brighton and West Ham. Brentford, Bournemouth, Fulham and Wolves wrote letters in support of the rules. BBC Sport has asked all the clubs mentioned for comment and none have yet responded. Simon Leaf, partner and head of sport at law firm Ishkonda Raya, told BBC Sport, whilst the decision will be embarrassing for the Premier League, because in a couple of narrow areas their rules have been found to be unlawful, generally speaking the decision confirms that the vast majority of the APT rules are indeed lawful. Speaking at the Law and Sport Global Summit, Leaf added, therefore whilst we can expect to see some changes to the rules going forwards, on the whole this isn't a resounding victory for Manchester City by any stretch of the imagination. The Premier League has called a meeting for next week to discuss the implications of the judgment. What the Premier League says. The Premier League's statement said that City brought a wholesale challenge to the APT rules and were unsuccessful in the majority of the challenge. It added the tribunal deemed the APT rules to be necessary and that if prices above fair market value were paid then competition will be distorted as the club would be benefiting from a subsidy. The league also said the tribunal had rejected Manchester City's argument that the object of the APT rules was to discriminate against clubs with ownership from the Gulf region. Its statement also said that, except in the two respects where City won, the tribunal found that City's arguments were unfounded, including on any alleged inconsistency in approaches between certain types of clubs. What Manchester City say? City's statement focused on the two areas where they won, as the club claimed the Premier League was found to have abused its dominant position. It said the club had succeeded with its claim and that the APT rules were found to be unlawful. City added that the tribunal found both the original APT rules and the amended rules violate UK competition law and the requirements of procedural fairness. The Premier League champions said the rules were found to be discriminatory because they deliberately excluded shareholder loans. And the club added there was an unreasonable delay in the Premier League's fair market value assessment of two of the club's sponsorship transactions. What's next? The Premier League says it will look to change the two aspects that the tribunal ruled against the league on. That means integrating the tribunal's assessment of shareholder loans and removing some of the February amendments. It says it is conducting a process that can allow the league and clubs to enact those specific changes quickly and effectively. Concerns that clubs could be hit with additional costs. BBC News sports editor Dan Roan. Both sides are claiming victory, and in truth the judgment contains something for both City and the Premier League. League sources are emphasizing the fact that most of City's challenges to the APT rules failed, and that the wider system was endorsed by the panel. They also seem confident that the rules will be swiftly amended by the clubs within 2 weeks in order to make them lawful. But the panel's ruling that the exclusion from the rules of interest-free loans from owners to their clubs, shareholder loans, was unlawful, has led to concerns that clubs could now be hit with additional costs that they were not anticipating. That could have major ramifications for those clubs that owe tens, or even hundreds, of millions of pounds to their owners.